Welcome to my channel. My name is Adina. I'm an intuitive astrologer. Thank you so much for joining me. In this video, I will be getting into the energy of Venus in Leo. Venus enters Leo June 5th and stays in Leo until October 8th, 2023. If you align with my energy and enjoy my content, don't forget to subscribe and like this video. For the first portion of this video, I will be getting into the general energy of Venus moving through Leo. Then I will be getting into all 12 rising signs. That way you are able to get an idea of how this energy is showing up for you personally. I also want you to keep in mind that if you have any personal planets or points in Leo or any of the fixed signs, that you will be feeling this energy a lot more intensely. Venus in Leo is really going to be a time of reprogramming, reevaluating, and reworking energy, not just in the Leo area of your birth chart, but when it comes to your relationships, your personal values, how you love and how you want to be loved. This also has to do with your self-worth, your self-love. This is going to be a period of time that we will be focusing on our personal values and our personal connections and completely reworking and reprogramming that energy. This can also have to do with your money and material possessions. Venus very much has to do with our love, yes, and our wants, our needs, and desires, all of our close personal connections. So while Venus is moving through Leo, she does make a lot of, quite a few interesting and possibly challenging aspects to a couple of the planets, including the nodes. But what I want you to be aware of is that you really want to pay attention to what is showing up in June and July, because Venus is going to be moving back over these degree points, reworking with this energy and whatever is showing up for you 3 times. Initially, once Venus enters Leo, again when Venus is retrograde, and then again after Venus goes direct. So while I'm talking about a lot of these transits that Venus is going to be making, I really want you to keep in mind that whatever is showing up for you, you will be working with this energy between June and October. Mostly July, August, and September is when the energy will be prominent, and you will really be, there will really be a reworking and reprogramming of whatever is showing up for you. But I did just want to bring that up to your awareness so you can be aware of it and conscious of it. Now, Leo can be a very passionate, playful, and creative energy. Leo can also be very courageous. Leo can also love to feel needed and wanted. Leo is a very loyal energy. So this can really be an energy of really needing and wanting to feel needed and wanted and loved and desired. And through Venus moving through Leo for a good portion of this time, Venus is going to be in Leo with Mars. However, Venus does not form an exact conjunction to Mars. And what I find really interesting about this energy is Leo represents royalty, and we have Mars, which represents men, and Venus, which represents women, in the sign of royalty. So it's almost like the king and the queen is in Leo, which is royalty. So I thought that was interesting. But because Venus and Mars don't form an exact conjunction, it's almost like Venus is chasing Mars through Leo, and then Mars moves into Virgo. What I really got from this energy was wanting to be seen, wanting to feel needed and desired and loved, but possibly not receiving it, which may have a lot to do with some of the reprogramming energy we will be moving through, where we are reworking our values, reworking and reevaluating our relationships and close personal connections. So I really wanted to bring that to your awareness. Now, one thing I really want to talk about is on June 5th, as soon as Venus enters Leo, Venus is going to form an opposition to Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. This can feel quite intense. We can really have a lot of power and control dynamics come up at this time. This is where we can have a lot of fears around our self-worth, our self-love, and our relationships. We can have a lot of fears come up that maybe we even thought we had already moved through, that really are, there's an experience or a situation that comes up at this time that brings these fears to the surface, that again can have to do with your self-love or your worth, your values, or your close personal connections. So this is really a period of time that you want to be aware of what is showing up. It's a period of time we really want to be conscious or cautious of what is coming up, because Pluto can represent power, control, fears, obsessions. However, Pluto can also be a very psychic and is a very powerful energy. And with oppositions, there is a balance required here. And because Venus can have to do with our relationships and our self-love and values, this is just where something is really coming up that requires your attention. Because the thing is on June 8th, Venus is going to square the nodes, the south node and the north node. So it's almost like something is really brought to our awareness, someone on the 5th when Venus has that opposition to Pluto, and then on June 8th we have this like sudden urge or realization there's something or someone that we have to release that is no longer in alignment. This can also be some type of block when it has to do with our creativity. So this is just a time period, the first week of June. You really want to be aware of what is showing up. This can be a really challenging and almost an energy of feeling stuck in some way. So we really do want to be cautious. I always say cautious, both though. We really want to be both of what is showing up so that we can work with this energy and transmute it. We want to also know and understand why things are showing up for us. Pluto can bring a lot to the surface that is hidden. This can also be secrets revealed. If this is applicable to you, or this is something that you are moving through in a personal connection or relationship, this can be a time of love affairs being exposed. This is a really powerful energy that is going to be felt very, very intensely. So it's definitely something we want to be conscious of and cautious. There we go again. We want to be aware of it, that's for sure. Now on June 10th, Venus is going to square Jupiter. Again, this can feel like some type of energy block. And because Jupiter is just moving from the north node, this can have to do with maybe something that isn't in alignment or requires your attention when it has to do with the direction you are moving into. This can also have to do with your money or your finances because it is Taurus. Jupiter is in Taurus. So again, just another energy you want to be aware of. And then another interesting energy I want to bring to your attention is on June 13th, Venus is going to form an inconjunction to Saturn. And I usually don't talk about inconjunctions. However, when I was looking at this chart, I had a few intuitive downloads, so I wanted to bring it to your awareness because when I have that experience, I feel like somebody needs to hear it. So I don't like to block information from getting to people. But Venus forming an inconjunction to Saturn can be where there's something that is not in alignment when it has to do with your values or your money and your commitments or responsibilities, because Saturn does have to do with our responsibilities, our commitments, or even taking accountability. Saturn is also getting ready to station retrograde, so this can be something coming up that is going to need to be worked through during the Saturn retrograde period, which I will be making a video about that. Saturn stations retrograde on June 17th, so watch for that video. I will be making a video about that and going into all 12 signs. But on June 13th, there can be a situation or something coming up that requires your attention when it comes to maybe your money, your finances, or even your partnerships and your commitments and responsibilities. So there is something there that is requiring your attention and that needs to be worked with consciously. On June 28th, we have Venus forming a trine to Chiron, and this can really be a beautiful supportive energy when it has to do with your healing journey or healing in some way. Chiron is an Aries, and Aries has to do with the self and our journey of the self, our self-discovery journey. And so with Venus forming a trine to Chiron, this can really be beautiful supportive energy coming in for that journey. Now, I also want to mention that on July 1st, Venus is going to square Uranus. So remember that Venus is going to be working with all of these planets again 2 more times, other than 3 times in total. So when Venus first initially moves through Leo, she's going to square Jupiter and she's going to square Uranus. We want to pay attention to what is showing up because she's going to form a square to Jupiter and Uranus again and then again. And so there really is a period of time where we are completely reworking with this energy. Now, when we get into all 12 rising signs, you'll be able to see how this is showing up for you personally, but generally speaking, this can have to do with your money. This can have to do with your self-values, your self-worth, your personal values, your relationships. So on August 9th, Venus is going to square Uranus again, only this time Venus is going to be retrograde. So pay attention to what shows up around July 1st, because there's more to the story that is showing up again around August 9th that you will be completely working with in a new way and a new light that we will, of course, visit again come September or after September when Venus goes direct. So pay attention to what is showing up for you. One more thing I really want to talk about is that Venus is going to go from being the dispositor of the North Node to being the dispositor of the South Node. Once the nodes shift into Aries and Libra come July 17th, Venus then becomes the ruler of the South Node. Venus has been the ruler of the North Node since February of 2022. And this is where we have been going through a complete reworking of our values, our self-worth, self-love, what we need, want, and desire in relationships. Now that Venus will be the ruler of the South Node, this is where there's a complete realization of who is no longer in alignment and who needs to be released and let go of. This doesn't just have to do with love relationships. This can be any personal connection. This can have to do with work connections. This can have to do with family. Libra very much represents all of our close personal connections. And so with the South Node being in Libra, this is going to be a period of time of really needing to bring our attention to who is no longer in alignment and are releasing and letting go of who is no longer in alignment. I did post a video about the nodes moving into Aries and Libra, and I got into all 12 rising signs. If you want to check that out, it is on my channel. But yes, it's going to be a very different energy, and what I really get into in that video is how when the North Node enters Aries, this is a new energy of self-discovery and self-empowerment, and it's almost like I feel like we will be releasing people who are blocking us from really stepping into that self-empowerment and soul journey. So definitely, if you want, you can check that out. July 22nd, Venus is going to station retrograde and will stay retrograde until September 3rd and move from 28 degrees back to 12 degrees. So this is going to be a period of time where we are completely reprogramming our energy when it has to do with our values, when it has to do with our relationships, when it has to do with what we need, love, desire, our wants, when it comes to everything that we require in relationships. So where it can be an intense energy, it can really be this beautiful reprogramming energy of completely rediscovering who we are, what we need, and what we want. So the retrograde period is between July 22nd and September 3rd. So also, when I get into all 12 rising signs, keep in mind, again, I'll remind you, keep in mind of any personal planets or points between that 12 degree and 28 degree points especially in Leo, but also in any of the fixed signs. So thank you so much for joining me. And now we are going to get into all 12 rising signs. Aries, you have Venus entering your 5th house. So Venus will be retrograding through your 5th house, and your 5th house represents your creativity, your passions, your joys, what you do for joy and for play. Your 5th house can also represent children. So this can be a time where there's a lot of focus on your children or having children. This can also be a time where you are completely reworking the energy around your creativity or what you truly find passion doing. Venus also rules your 7th house of relationships and your 2nd house of money and finances and your values. So while Venus is retrograde, this can be a complete reworking of energy when it comes to your personal connections, your relationship, your marriage partner, or even your money and your finances and your personal values. So while Venus is moving through Leo from June 5th till October 8th, you may find that this is a time where you are completely reworking and reprogramming energy around what you love, what you desire, what you want with your money, and also in your close personal connections. Taurus, you have a Leo in the 4th house. So Venus will be entering your 4th house, retrograding through your 4th house. And your 4th house has to do with your home, your family, your property, your roots, your parents. So this can really be a period of time where you are focusing more on your home and family. This can be a time of renovating the home, because Venus does have to do with aesthetics. So this can really be a time of you wanting to decorate your home or redecorate in some way, and where you're focusing more on your home and family. You have Venus is your chart ruler. Venus rules you, the 1st house, and also rules your 6th house of health, work, daily routine. So you may find that you are also focusing more on you and your self-values, and maybe your appearance or aesthetic in some way, changing up your appearance, and maybe focusing a little bit more changing up your health routine. Gemini, you have Venus entering and retrograding through your 3rd house. And your 3rd house has to do with your community, your neighbors, vehicles, writing, speaking, communicating, early childhood education. So you may find that there's a lot of focus and reworking of energy when it has to do with your neighbors or community in some way, or maybe even when it has to do with your creativity and communicating or speaking or writing something. Now, Venus also rules your 12th house and your 5th house. So this makes a lot of sense, where Venus would completely be reworking your creativity, where maybe you are focusing more on what you're passionate about and communicating it, writing about it, and focusing more on even speaking, something along the lines of creating something beautiful, but doing it in a way of speaking, writing, communicating. And you may also find that because Venus rules your 12th house, that this is really requiring you to step away from the world for a little bit to focus more on your creativity and doing what you truly love, want, and desire. Cancer, you have Venus entering your 2nd house and retrograding through your 2nd house from June 5th to October 8th. And your 2nd house represents money, finances, material possessions, your personal values, and even your self-worth. So you may find that there is a complete reprogramming and reworking of energy when it has to do with those themes and topics. Venus also rules your 4th house of home and family and property. property, and your 11th house of friendships, social groups, social connections, and online pursuits. So anything that maybe you are putting online. So you may find that you're moving through something when it has to do with your money, or maybe even making money online, but there is definitely something here that is being reworked in some way where you are focusing more on your money, your finances, your personal values, your home and family. So maybe even working from home more, making money online. There's definitely a story playing out here when it has to do with 4th house topics, which is home, family, property, 11th house topics, which is friendships and also online pursuits, and your 2nd house, which has to do with money and finances, material possessions, and your personal values. Leo, you have Venus entering your 1st house. The 1st house represents you, your physical body, your appearance, how you view this physical reality. So this can really be a time where maybe you are even changing your appearance in some way, or changing your physical body in some way, where you're reprogramming maybe beliefs around how you view this physical reality. Venus also rules your 3rd house and your 10th house. And the 3rd house represents community, neighbors, also communicating, speaking, writing. This may be a time where maybe you are focusing more on what you want to put out in the world, because Venus also rules your 10th house of career and public reputation. So this may be a time where you find that you are taking more time for you to communicate or journal or read, speak, write, any of those themes or topics, and putting it online or doing something with that with your career. So these themes and topics are all going to be coming up for review during this Venus moving through Leo period. Virgo, you have Venus entering your 12th house, and the 12th house represents spirituality, karma, the isolation. The 12th house also can represent self-undoing. So this is a time period where you may find you do want to come away from the world a little bit, maybe spend a little bit more time alone. Maybe you need more alone time. Venus also represents your 2nd house of money, finances, and material possessions, and also your personal values, and your 9th house of your belief systems, long distance travel, higher knowledge, higher education. So you may find that maybe you are retreating or coming away from the world in some way, so that you can completely, maybe your belief systems are going through a complete reprogramming, and it may even have to do with your personal values. So this can also be a time, and the energy is there to support maybe going away on a retreat center, because the 9th house does represent long distance travel, and the 12th house represents retreat centers. So all in all, Virgo, you have a lot of energy here around maybe just stepping away from the world for a little bit, taking a look at your personal values, reprogramming your personal values in some way, or possibly even traveling. Libra, you have Venus entering your 11th house, and your 11th house represents your friendships, social groups, your online connections, or even online pursuits, and your hopes and dreams. So you may find that during this Venus Leo period, especially during the Venus retrograde period, there's a lot of focus and reprogramming and reworking when it has to do with your friendships. This can be a time of maybe even reevaluating some of your friendships and social connections. Now, Venus also represents you, your 1st house, and your 8th house. So this can be a period of time where there's also themes and topics coming up around you, your physical appearance, your physical body, and a reprogramming of how you view this physical reality. And then also even money coming in from outside resources, or some type of psychological healing maybe occurring as well. Now, the 8th house can also represent money coming in from outside resources or your partner's finances. So this may also come up during the Venus retrograde period that does require your attention. But all in all, Libra, there's a lot of energy here of just reevaluating friendships, and maybe there's a need to release people that are just no longer in alignment with you. Scorpio, you have Venus entering your 10th house of career, public reputation, and the legacy you leave behind after your working years. So, Venus moving through your 10th house, especially during that Venus retrograde period, can be a time where you are completely reevaluating your career, possibly reworking that energy in some way, maybe rethinking what you want to do for work or for your career, or maybe even possibly your business. Now, Venus also rules your 12th house and your 7th house of relationships. So your 12th house represents isolation, spirituality. Your 7th house represents your relationships, your close personal connections. So you may find that these are also themes and topics that are coming up for review. Maybe there's a need for you to isolate a little bit, focus more on your work and career and your relationships, or maybe there's something that needs to give in your relationships in order to focus more on your work and career. But these are themes and topics that are definitely coming up for review during this Venus and Leo time. Sagittarius, you have Venus entering your 9th house of your belief systems, higher education, higher knowledge, long distance travel. So during this Venus and Leo period, you may find that there is a lot of focus possibly on traveling or even reprogramming your belief systems in some way. Or you may even find that during the Venus retrograde period, you are really focusing on higher knowledge, higher wisdom, maybe even researching. Now, Venus also rules your 11th house and your 6th house. So you may find that there is also a lot of focus on your friendships or social connections and what you are doing day to day, possibly your work, possibly your health routine. So you may be completely reprogramming your beliefs or reprogramming how you live your day to day life, your nutrition, your health. These themes and topics are really all up for review and reprogramming, Sagittarius. Capricorn, you have Venus entering Leo in your 8th house, and the 8th house represents taxes, inheritance, money coming in from outside resources, or your partner's finances. The 8th house can also represent deep psychological healing. So while Venus is moving through Leo, especially during that Venus retrograde period between July 22nd and September 3rd, you may find that there's a lot of deep psychological healing taking place. Now, Venus also rules your 5th house and your 10th house. Your 5th house has to do with your passions, what you do for play, and your children. So those themes and topics may also be coming up during this time period. And your 10th house has to do with your career and your public reputation. So you may find that while Venus is retrograde, maybe you're rethinking your career, something that has to do with your career. Maybe you're focusing more on your creativity or really wanting to do something creative and put it out and do something in your career or around your career when it has to do with that. Aquarius, you have Venus entering Leo, which is in your 7th house of your relationships, your close personal connections, even your business partnerships. So this can be a time where there is a complete reevaluation or reworking when it comes to your close personal connections. This can be a time where you are reevaluating your close personal connections or your relationships. You can be reprogramming energy around what you need, want, and desire when it comes to your relationships. Venus also rules your 9th house and your 4th house. Your 4th house represents your home, your family, your property, and your 9th house has to do with your belief systems, long distance travel, higher knowledge. So you may find that this is a period where maybe you are focused and learning more, reprogramming your belief systems in some way, and there is something coming up as well when it has to do with your home, your family, and your property. Pisces, you have Venus entering Leo, which is in your 6th house of health, work, and daily routine. So you may find that during this Venus and Leo period, there's a lot of focus on your day-to-day life, your health routine, maybe even your nutrition habits. Venus also rules your 8th house of taxes, inheritance, money coming in from outside resources or your partner's finances, and also your third house, which represents your community, your neighbors, siblings, cousins, even communicating, speaking, or writing. So this can really be a time where maybe you are switching up and changing up your day-to-day routine, focusing more on third house topics, which may have to do with communicating or speaking or writing or something along those lines, putting more focus into your nutrition habits. Maybe you're learning more about your nutrition, reading more about your nutrition, or maybe you decide to start communicating about health, nutrition, something like that. And then also those eighth house topics will also be coming up, which have to do with money coming in from outside resources or even psychological healing or your partner's finances.